Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam, and this is Talk with the Titans. You know what? Again, I usually say live from London, UK, but today we're actually in the US of A, New York to be precise, with my brother Zion Lexx, one of the most controversial individuals in the conscious community to date. Greetings.
Greetings, my brother. It's a blessing. I'm glad that you had a safe flight. I'm glad to see you in the flesh, and I'm ready to get it in.
All right. This is perfect. This is perfect. You know what? Talk with the Titans, we've started a new thing where we're asking 10 straight questions, quick fire rounds, really getting into the crux of everything. So I'm going to start off real controversial, real juicy. And I want to ask you, how did you feel when you saw you had the brother Danyalla and the brother Hashar not so long ago put out a video in support of Polight against Harry Rosenberg. Now I don't know whether we're judging a man based upon the color of his skin rather than the content of his character, or you lot supposed to be brothers. Shouldn't you lot stick together as brothers in truth?
Great question. I caught the video with brother Danyalla and brother Hashar. I caught the video on Sara the TV, and I was a bit perplexed. It perplexed me at the least bit that two brothers who profess to be proficient in Torah stated on record that they would be with Polight in destroying the Bible because he is going up against the white man, i.e., who they refer to as Esau. And for that alone, they are willing to watch the Bible burn. As a scholar of Torah, I automatically had to take points away from that. And I do that unapologetically. That's what I do. I speak truth to power. It doesn't matter who the hell it is. And although I have a semblance of love remaining for those brothers, regardless of our differences, I still have to point out what's right and what's wrong. And for anybody, at least in the Hebrew Israelite community, I can't speak for any other community because your reasons would be different. But for say that we are, because number one, letting you know he is there to destroy the Bible. He's there to shit on the Torah. As a matter of fact, I believe one of the titles or subtitles can go, a couple. I can't say that we are going to.
Your comments down, share button. In the Hangouts panel, we've got Dr. Ali Muhammad with me. Peace to you, King. Dr. Ali Muhammad, if you're there, your mic is open, so you can just say peace to the family. We've also got
Kalam. Thanks for coming over for the wonderful event that's about to go down in New York City.
Trust me, it's about to go down. I'm so excited to actually finally be here. Listen, I haven't had no sleep for the last 3 days, but I'm so excited. It's just keeping me up. All right. You already know my energy is uncontrollable. So I'm happy right now. I'm happy to be here with my brother Zion Lexx. My brother Zion Lexx has been so warm, so welcoming. You know what? The whole team that's actually, got me over here has taken me into their household, who's looking after me right now. I've got to give a big shout out to my brother Rozenberg. He's been absolutely wonderful. He's been incredible. He's helped me out so much. So I have to give thanks to every single person who's actually looked out for me. And if you're in the US right now and you're in New York, I'm going to be on 125th Street tomorrow. So come check me. Let's meet up with the whole family. All right, I'm about to go back in now. I'm gonna go back in because you know what? We spoke about this on Talk with the Titans. And then you had people like Sara that was there trying to call your bluff about the brother Sara, Suten, Seti. So I want to know, yeah, what truly went down. Yeah, what truly went down.
All right, so let me first start off by saying this. Respect to the brother Seti. I respect what he stands for. I disagree with his views, but I respect that he stands on 10 toes for black liberation. We disagree on methodology, obviously, but I respect that brother's contribution, actually a bit more than I respect Polight's. I think Seti is actually more genuine in wanting to help black people become liberated. And for that reason, I definitely put Seti above Polight in that respect. People, make no mistake about it. These sit-downs, these debates, I don't know how it works with other people, but I'm going to tell you right now, Sarnetta could co-sign this too. I'm a very, very real individual. I say what I want, when I want, and I don't care who's in the room. Nobody's going to stop me. That's always been my personality before getting on camera. People that know me from yay high tall can tell you that about me. I say what I want, when I want. The problem with that, when you put me in a room with a person like Seti, who say what he want and do what he want when he want, then you got a fire. Make no mistake about it. There was nothing staged about that sit down and then that stand up that y'all witnessed. That stand up, what followed that stand up was deep, man. I'm not supposed to talk about it as per Sarnetta, as per me agreeing with him that maybe it wasn't the best thing to highlight for the community. But this much I will say. When you saw Brother Seti stand up, the reason why he stand up, and I'm quoting Seti verbatim because me and him spoke directly after, he said that he stood up because he felt like I was pressing him, or I was tempting him, or I was punking him. So he wanted to show me, man, I'm a grown-ass man. You know, I'm 43 years old. Zion, you just what? You 36. So he stood up. And at that point, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. As a matter of fact, we was in Brooklyn, New York. So I got the hell up too. And after that, it got a little ugly. I won't say exactly what happened again because that's on Sarnetta to one day release. I'm not a person that brags about things that destroy unity, but I want to make this clear. If you saw the video, you wouldn't just be calling one person general in the community. You certainly wouldn't just be calling one person general. And if I'm lying, then all Sarnetta would have to do is release the rest of the video to prove Zion Lexx wrong. But since we all saw that never happen, that's one of the things that should make you go, Right?
Yep.
All right. But respect to Brother Seti. I will quote my brother Red Pill. My brother Red Pill spoke with me about 20 to 30 minutes after while he was in the car with Sarnetta riding back to Harlem. And he said while those brothers were hearing in the car, and I believe Divine Prospect was in the car too, as well as Brother Perry, Red Pill said, man, Zion had a look in his eye that I ain't never seen before in that man in my life. Zion was not playing. He said, I respect you, King, and I respect Seti too, but I definitely respect you a little different today. And I'm going to leave it at that because for me, I don't get any props belittling Seti by telling what really happened. I think Seti's contribution is immense. I think his contribution is great. And for me to say exactly what happened would, in all honesty, not make him look too great. I'll say that. But I still love that brother. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
And you know what? It wouldn't be fair of me not to get my brother Sara, Suten, Seti, in the studio with us. Hopefully he's going to be at the debate. If not, sometime in the near future, we're definitely going to get the brother on Talk with the Titans. We did try to have him on Talk with the Titans previously, but unfortunately his phone circumstances dropped out. So hopefully we can get the brother back in. We can definitely touch on this topic right here. Now, you know what? I have to touch on another big name within the community. I have to talk on a titan that has definitely come on our platform and has definitely shut things down as well. So I'm talking about right now the brother, the infamous, the famous, the phenom himself, Brother Polight.
The running man.
Oh, man. You know what? I actually had to ask him that question. I actually asked him, you know what? Brother, are you running from Zion Lexx? Brother, is it true that you're running from Zion Lexx? Or is that situation completely fallacious and you don't have, no fear in your heart for the brother Zion Lexx. You don't have no issues with the brother Zion Lexx. You want to keep things hospitable with the brother Zion Lexx. I don't know. My audience members, I want to know from you guys. I want to know from you guys right now. Is Polight running from Zion Lexx? Leave that down below. Yes, down below. Or is he being strategic? Is he being strategic? And what could possibly be the strategy from avoiding, the most foremost member within inside of the Hebrew community? I'm trying to, think of somebody right now who is as foremost in the conscious community as Zion Lexx within inside of the Hebrew community, and I can't really put my finger on an individual. So I want to know, is Polight running from Zion Lexx, or is he being strategic? Zion Lexx, I'm going to bring that over to you. Let me know, is Polight running from you, or is there something else about the situation?
Encountered some of the same biases that I feel I encountered from Polight. To draw from Polight speaking to me, I'll say this. Polight has said to me that when he debated when he debated Malik Zulu Shabazz, Sonetta only showed various parts of Polight's speaking, and he showed more of Zulu Shabazz. And Polight felt that was a little unbiased. Of course, our brother Sonetta, as always, had his reasons for why one person had more talk time in the video, like Shaka and me, and why another person didn't. And Polight shared with me that he felt stumped. So we've all encountered biasness from brother Sonetta, who recently came out and admitted to it. And what a lot of people don't know is the reason why he admitted to it is because of somebody from my community. As a matter of fact, somebody from my temple, Chief Uzziel, who had a conversation with the brother a day before and told him that you have an amazing platform and you have an ability to really, really galvanize this community contemporarily in a way that hasn't been done in a very, very long time. But if you continued on the road that you're going to lose your audience, your core shell, genuine audience. And for some reason, it finally resonated with him. And he said to my brother Chief Uzziel that he would do a video the next day and come clean. And he did.
I remember that.
And we all praised him for that. I gave him high respect. But if you also notice, another catalyst for him coming out and apologizing for being biased was the very video I did with Seti. Sonetta has a habit of, when anyone is debating against someone in the Kemetic platform, of shielding and defending them and asking leading questions that would give the other opponent, the Kemetic opponent, the upper hand. And he continually did that throughout my dialogue with Seti. And I said to Sonetta, you are the moderator or the interviewer, i.e. you're a judge. The judge can't act as prosecutor. Be a judge. Be a moderator. If that's what you are, you do that. But don't become a prosecutor and take the case away from the person who should be presenting the case, or else you make him look weak. I said, isn't he the general? Don't y'all call him General Seti? Didn't I say that?
You did say it.
I surely said that.
Yes.
So that means that together, my words and Chief Uzziel words made Sonetta come out and put out a video, and he apologized not just to the Hebrew community, because he was guilty of doing this to every single community outside of the Kemetic conscious community. Again, he has a vested interest to make sure that he protects the speakers on the Kemetic platform. Obviously, this is where his ideologies lie. So he is going to make sure that he is careful in how they are represented, i.e., he has a biased tendency towards anyone who is non-Kemetic thought based. And I pointed it out quickly. Now, with regard to our brother Polight,
Just extending out.
That he called about the true several occasions that Harry who believes that
Okay. So we are live again. Sorry about that, family. You know what? The connection briefly dropped out for a moment. And again, just to reintroduce the show, we're here live with brother Zion Lexx, all the way from New York, US of A. So, you know what? Let's get back into this. I just had a great conversation with my brother Desmond, calling in from Indianapolis. So a big shout out to you, King. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for showing your support as well. So again, if you got any questions for the brother, I'm going to open up the lines in literally 5 minutes time. You can literally call in and you can get your questions answered. I'm going to try to go to the Facebook and get some of those questions that you've been sending in answered as well. Zion. Do you have any of those questions that they've been asking you on Facebook?
Something clear. Somebody said Zion is trying to make an entrance back in the conscious community, but he's going about it the wrong way. He's going to be banned. Somebody else said Zion should be banned from the community. Let me just make something clear. There's a community that I come from that has nothing to do with what you call the so-called conscious community. I was invited on this platform, and I enjoyed it while I was there. But make no mistake about it, I don't need the conscious community platform. What is the conscious community? To take a shot for a second really quick to prove to you that I don't need it by doing what I want and saying what I want. What is the conscious community? It's a Google Hangout. It's a YouTube video. Are there any schools set up in the country where these teachings are disseminated from? Are there any Kemetic schools here in New York? And I'm not talking about a storefront. I'm talking about schools like you see the Hebrews have diffused throughout this country. Those are communities. Those are circles that we gather in where we achieve scholarship. Whether you agree with all the information or not that is put out there is one thing. But we have invested enough in the information that we adhere to set up houses of learning. What house of learning establishes the base of what you refer to as the conscious community? I would love to hear that. What? Name one. I'm waiting. So when you say Lexx is trying to make his way back in the conscious community, I'm going to have to tell you right now real quick, sit your ass all the way down on that one. I never needed the conscious community, nor do I need it. Do I embrace the conscious community for what it has to offer? Sure. Just like Malcolm X would have embraced CNN. But at the end of the day, the conscious community did not make me and cannot break me. Let's just make that very, very emphatically clear.
So I've got somebody asking you, that was powerful. That was real powerful. I've got somebody here on Facebook. I'm going to shout out your name real quickly. That is Ellen Pruitt. And they want to know, why did you, Zion Lexx, you know what? Why did you back down from the debate with Seti? Is that the case? Did you back down from the debate with Seti?
Woo! I backed down from a debate with Seti? Okay, that's the question.
That's the question.
I'm not sure who asked the question or what this is based on, but let me say this, and this is what I will admit that I didn't like about my interaction with Seti. You see, I went into that interaction with the wrong spirit. I've always made it clear that whenever you put me in a room, I become whatever is in that room. Water is my element. For those who finds and dissected him. Seti is a scholar in his own right, I guess, for what the conscious community accepts. In my community, no, he's not. He would literally get dismantled like it was nothing. In fact, some of the questions that he raised were just so nonsensical. He kept talking about Ham being cursed when the Torah clearly says that Canaan was cursed. These are questions that I didn't even think to really entertain because it was so elementary. It showed that this is someone who's not really deep in Torah to even frame those questions that he asked. And that was kind of annoying to me because I thought I was next to a scholar, someone who was study enough to back it out from Seti. I mean, for a debate with me and Seti. It was never announced that me and Seti were going to enter a platform and debate. What me and Seti sat down and did on Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn over 2, maybe 3 months ago, was we were doing a video which would lead up to this event, which was supposed to be a team event. Now, if you want to ask the correct question, which is why did Zion Lexx initially say that he wanted to back out of the whole debate that was taking place, that's a better question. But as far as backing away from Seti, I would have to ask you two questions. On what level? Anybody who was in the room with me, Seti, and Red Pill certainly knows you're not talking about on a physical level. Shots got to be fired. Certainly I wasn't backing down on a physical level. Shout out to Red Pill who was in the goddamn building. And scholarly wise, Seti's a scholar? I'm out to lunch on that. I saw a couple of videos, but I'm out to lunch on that. But I still respect that brother's contribution.
You know what? To this zone right now. So you saying all my Titans are being quiet right now? Garfield, I know you're not quiet. Garfield, I know you're not quiet.
While they waiting, let me jump in and do something real quick.
I don't got no tough questions. I'll let somebody else step over with it.
All right. So, Brother Magi says he ain't got no tough questions.
I was gonna jump in and say I didn't want to interrupt the brother when the brother was speaking, but he said who has schools and which community. But I mean, as far as the Asar Society and the Earth Center, and there's numerous people in New York. He should be familiar with that. They have actual schools, Kemetic school, the Earth Center, which is nationwide. You're talking about Asar Society, which is also in South Africa, in Ghana, other places all over the Caribbean. They're in over 40 different cities here in this country. So they're having schools as far as teaching Kemetic. The Earth Center is actually, if you go in any group that has Kemetic people in it, you'll hear them talking about the Earth Center a lot. Even the brother we have on the panel right here, Smash, he has his programs.
Could I ask you a question, Brother Garfield?
But not in the sense of school though, but he has different programs that he's doing. But as far as the actual school and programs, the Asset Society has been doing stuff since 1973. They've been doing their thing.
All right, I appreciate that. One thing I'm not as ignorant. I appreciate that. And I furthermore appreciate if you could tell me where those schools are located in New York, and maybe we could visit them together since I do know you personally. Maybe you could take me down there. Where the schools at in New York?
You know what? In, I don't know if you know where the slave theater used to be. You know where the slave theater used to be?
Of course. You talking about the one in the
All right. Around the corner from there, Asset Society was there in the 90s. But I think they're on, I don't know the exact. I did make a phone call to them a couple weeks ago to know where a couple places were in New York. I know they're in Brooklyn. They're in Brooklyn for years. Okay. And there's a school in Harlem that I'm familiar with because I was actually supposed to go there and do a course. So I know there's a school in Harlem, period, you know?
So let's go check it out when you get a chance, Garfield.
I mean, if you want some location, sometimes when you're not in that world, you know what I'm saying? When you're not in that world, it's like I know what ISUPK does because they're in my little paradigm that I have. So I know I could tell you what ISUPK is doing. Now with Asar Asset Society, I have been studying and looking at what they've been doing. I mean, I'm not around my computer, to bring up whatever, and just show you exactly what they're doing. But I know for a fact they have schools, they have different stuff that they do as far as social services is concerned. The Earth Center is like OD Kemetic. I don't know if Jonathan want to expound on that, but I mean, they're OD into Kemet stuff, deep. And they're doing stuff in the community and all that stuff. But it's just that sometimes when you're not in that paradigm, and what happened is, I remember, I think I had to go off on Panahisi one time. I think it's Kalam. Was it your show? I had to go off on Panahisi, right?
I believe so.
He had brought it up and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I had to, pretty much curse him out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm saying to people, if you're not in a paradigm, you're not gonna know what's exactly going on with certain people and certain groups. But I'm just saying it as a point of clarification, not to jump in and say, "Hey, I got you." You know what I'm saying? But if you study the Earth Center, the Asar Asset Society, and there's a couple more that, I mean, give me a day or two and I could probably inbox you like a numerous amount of them that's doing stuff, but we're just not in that paradigm. That's bottom line what it is.
Okay, so the reason why I asked you to give me a select number of locations in New York, because when you initially said it, you said it like there was enough locations, at least here in New York City, for someone to be aware of it. But when questioned, I think you drew for about one and a second possible. But again, I appreciate that. I appreciate you. And one thing I will always say, just like I came to the Kemetic conference by myself with no one, I would also say this to you. When you get a chance, how about myself and you go down there and we check it out? I would love to see it, because I definitely agree with you that when you're not immersed in a particular paradigm, you may not be privy to the scenery of that paradigm. You may not privy to the stage and those who participate in it. So I get that point, and I appreciate that.
Big example, brother.
Hold on, one second.
The dancehall word no more. And what happened? If somebody asks us about an artist, we're gonna be like, huh?
Well, that's not true, Garfield. I'm gonna say this. That's not true, because my history in dancehall reggae, and just the other day, Movado's manager Julian had gave me a call, trying to find out. How many?
6.
I'm not 100% sure if it's Kemetic community. It's a 100% Kemetic community, but it's a community built. It's self-sustaining, and it's I'm gonna get some more information before you get off the air. All
okay.
Right? Just inbox my brother who has a lot of knowledge about it.
Thanks,
but that's a
Garfield.
community that's very, very. They are a self-sustaining community right now, South Carolina. And a matter of fact, the Hebrews have a community in that state also.
Yeah, I knew about that one. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right. And you know what? This is another thing that I've been seeing, another topic that's been popping up so much inside of the talk with the Titans in that, so from a Torah-based teaching, okay, from a Torah, is it
proper platform to elaborate it? Maybe we need to do a whole show on that. No, I'm just saying.
You're right. You're right. But you're right, my brother. But this is what I want to say to that. Number one, I have never been known to shy away from any question. So I must address that question simply because it was asked, which is why the next time the brother Kalam asks somebody if you have a question, by all means, ask your question. I'm not going to shy away from any question you ask. I have to say again, this is a tough one. Not a tough one because my mind ain't made up on what it is, but a tough one because there are people I know personally, in my Torah-based opinion, would be fallacious. It's the only way. Maybe we could dialogue at another time. Like Brother Garfield said, we could actually do a show on that. And I would love to join the panel to share my view in depth on why I know and not believe the world is spherical as opposed to being flat. So to answer the question flat out, ironically, no, the world being flat is definitely not a Torah-based teaching.
All right, excellent. You know what? We've got some more callers calling in. We've got a brother called Andre Carter calling in. He's got a question to ask you, brother Zion Lexx. Okay. Andre, please ask your question away.
Yes, brother Zion Lexx. How you doing? Shalom to you and everything. Made contact with them. As far as his community. His ancestors, stuff like that, and things he knows about, the Bible.
Okay. We're going to get you that question answered right now.
So what's the question again?
The question is, how much have you learned from the brother Harry Rosenberg about himself, his community, and what else?
About, his knowledge of, biblical history, Hebrew, stuff like that, and about, where...
So when Harry introduced himself to me a little over 6 months ago, possibly shorter, I began to press him intellectually. I don't just deal with European Jews like that, and it's not because of race. It's more so because of my experience with a lot of European Jews. I haven't had good experiences with them for the most part. So I don't just communicate with any European Jew like that. After speaking to Harry, I felt comfortable communicating with him, and there were definitely some things that I learned about him. One thing I learned about him is that he is definitely qualified as someone who can speak on Torah. I know my Israelites gonna go crazy in the chat board, and I was rocking with you, Zion. I bought 3 of your books, but after that this platform magnifying the white man.
I do apologize for the connection, people, if it keeps cutting out on you. There is a little. Yeah, we're good now. So I apologize. I'm sorry. Everything ain't perfect. I've just arrived. I was just setting up. But yeah, it definitely will get better. All right. Some people in the chat room is asking like crazy questions right now.
They're going in the chat room.
They're going in. I'm reading it.
I got LaRon G. Conscious talking about my neck is oily. Where I'm from, or I would say where my family's from, in particular Jamaica, we have a saying: we don't watch men. You know what I mean? We don't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've seen brothers on TV, but I've never looked close enough to realize certain things. So I just got to point out to Brother G Conscious, that's some real funny shit right there. But kudos to you for I guess pointing that out.
Jello pudding eating. Okay. Thank you, G Consciousness. All right. Enough of bringing up people that actually are irrelevant right now. All right. Now, I want to know who else is coming into the mix. Is Dr. Ali Muhammad ready to come into the mix, or you just staying there? You're just staying quiet. Ali Muhammad, are you ready to come into the mix? I'm looking at you, and he's. Ooh, here we go. All right, we got a Titan coming in right now.
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Peace to my brother Zion. And I do have a question. This is more of a content question because I had a discussion with some people from ISUPK. I think that was 2 years ago, a year ago or so. And I highlighted something that I saw as a phenomena, and I want you to do your best to elaborate on it. And that is that I made a statement that the Bible, in certain sections, was making anti-black statements, and or some
in the comment section
was the Song of Solomon, where one of Solomon's wives is commenting, and the verse I think is 5 or 6. I'll get a Bible while we're sitting here because I can run and get one, but I think it's verse 5 or 4 through 6, somewhere around there. And she's commenting that she's black, but it seems like she's apologizing for it to her people. As a matter of fact, hold on one second. Just hold on one second.
You addressed that before, didn't you?
I'll touch.
All right, give me a second. I just want to read. I want to read exactly where this is coming from. I remember it being in chapter 1, Song of Solomon, and because you are proficient in the original language of the text, maybe you can elaborate on this. It's verse 5. I'll read the verse in English, and then you can elaborate on it. It states in this translation, "I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards." So what it appears to be saying is that she's apologizing for her black skin, all right? And it's due to the sun kind of baking her or something because she was in the vineyards. And she's saying, "Look not upon me." Can you elaborate on that verse? And after that, I have one more question, if you have time.
Absolutely, my brother. And I do recall that we had this discussion briefly before, as you stated too. We definitely didn't get in it heavy. It was on Sundance TV, I believe. I will translate from the original Hebrew word for word. It's verse 5 in the Hebrew Bible. I think you were reading verse 6 in the King James, but it's verse 5 in the Hebrew Bible. And I'll translate it for you word for word. Shakora ani. Shakor, as in like Tupac Shakur. Shakor is one of the Hebrew words for black. Ani is the Hebrew word for I. So Shakora ani means I am black. The next two words is we na'awa. We is in Hebrew means and na'awa means desirable. So the first three words of Song of Solomon's chapter 1 verse 5 literally reads in the Hebrew, I am black and deeply desirable. As I pointed out to you before on Sonnet the TV, the term but is not there at all in the Hebrew. There is no but there. And but, in the context of which it is used in the King James Bible, comes across, as you correctly point out, as an apologetic inference, as if the person is apologizing for being black, because the person, according to the King James reading, is not just saying I'm black. According to the King James, it says I am black but beautiful, right? So in the Hebrew, there is no apologetic inference. The word but is not used at all in the Hebrew, so I want to make that clear. The text does state, I am black and deeply desirable. Now, with regard to the context in which most people would like to interpret it, the first thing I want to say is this. The sages of the Torah, the rabbinic sages, refer to this particular portion of the scripture as the holiest song that was ever written to God. They actually refer to it in Hebrew as Kadosh Kedoshim, the Holy of Holies. Song of Psalms is known in Hebrew lore or tradition as the Holy of Holies, the greatest song ever sung or pronounced by man to God. The song is actually interpreted correctly as a song towards God. The term black is used as an epithet. It is not to be taken literal. I want to make that clear. Although the children of Israel clearly are a people of color, even as Harry Rosenberg has stated, when we go into Song of Songs and it talks about Shakura, it's actually not necessarily talking about the skin tone of the flesh. It's talking about the estate of the people. I'm not sure if this show is long enough to get into Lavan, which is the Hebrew word for white, and then to come back to the word Shakura, which is the Hebrew word for black, and then talk about the dichotomy between the two and what they relate exoterically as well as esoterically in the Torah. That's a whole show on its own. But one thing I want to make clear is that the song is interpreted on a much deeper level than people give it credit for. So yes, Ali Muhammad, you will have my Israelite brothers who will come here and say, see, the children of Israel had to be dark. It says right here, I am black but comely. And again, although we clearly were a people of color, the text is not really born out to exude color in this particular instance. There is something much more esoteric being described, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, that's great, bro. But there was a part that you missed, and what I want to go back to is you explained verse 5, but my focus was verse 6, where she states in English, according to most translations,
Okay.
look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me and my mother's children were angry with me. They made me keeper of the vineyards. Now, I know there may be esoteric aspects to it, but for those who read, don't read it that way. When verse 6 states that she makes the statement, look not upon me because I am black, and my mother's children were angry with me. Can you give a mundane or esoteric explanation for that verse, along with, coordinating with verse 5?
Okay. So for
that statement be made?
Okay, so for the sake of this conversation, I will briefly say this. When you go into ancient Kemet, we know that the Kemetic priests wore what color? They wore white. We know that in the ancient world, white has always been a semblance, or an emblem or a sign of purity. Not that white is better, but from the understanding of holiness, or from the concept of holiness, African people have always used white to represent that which is pure, because if you, just like they do in the hospitals, and I was an EMT for 8 years, and I actually just got back into the field, by the way, to talk about my personal profession. But the reason why you see white in hospitals is why they want to show the purity. They want to show that although they're in contact with all of these different communicable diseases or pathogens, that there's no stains on the shirt. So in those settings, we wear white to show the purity or to show the cleanliness. With that frame of thought in mind, my brother, the term shakora, which is the Hebrew word for black, or shakor, the Hebrew word for black, is conveying the idea that the children of Israel, speaking to God and communicating to the nations, do not look upon our sins. The term black, as is used here, is conveying the notion of our sins. We are stained with sins. Now, of course, you will have now the people who are reaching with a long-ass hand that's going to want to say, okay. Thank you, Brother Zion. You just confirmed that the Torah now is using black as sin, right? Well, take it however you want to take it. I just want to make this clear again. Ancient African people have always used white primarily. There were other colors, but white primarily as a symbol or an emblem of holiness or purity. And just from a common sense standpoint, the opposite of holiness would be that which is impure. And the total opposite of the color white would be what? Black. So, again, you would actually have to be immersed into the language of Torah to really get the essence of what it's trying to convey here, especially this particular psalm, because this particular psalm is written in such poetic prose that it is intended to have great layered and esoteric meaning. So if someone picks it up from the outside and thinks that they are just going to understand what it means, you are sadly mistaken. For instance, you had brothers in the Kemet on trial, and I'll use Polight for an example. Polight said these Hebrews are obsessed with dicks. They look on the wall of Kemet and they see all these penises and they have an obsession. But then Brother Smashwell, Brother Jonathan, which I think did a great job, by the way. I will always give credit where credit is due. Jonathan got up there and he explained exactly what those images meant and conveyed. I don't agree with everything Jonathan teaches, but I always say, and I've always said on record, that I think he did a great job showing that there was much more to convey. Now, with regard to that statement, you wouldn't allow me a pass, and I'm not saying you specifically, Brother Ali, because you are not of a Kemetic base to begin with. But I'm just saying in general, and I am speaking to the Kemetic community. The Kemetic community wouldn't give me a pass for not understanding and knowing Medunetta and reading it and just coming up with what I think it means. They wouldn't give me a pass on it. So I'm definitely not going to give the Kemetic community a pass on the Hebrew text that none of them are fluent in. So in order to understand the text, you would want to come to a Hebrew scholar, someone who is immersed in the language. Not every Hebrew is a Hebrew scholar, by the way. So you want to speak to someone who is at least immersed in the language. That way that person can effectively communicate what's going on.
Okay. You know, I appreciate your statement, but you said you wanted some controversy, right?
Yep.
Check this out. Check this out. Let's listen to what our brother just stated. All right, this is clearly just commentary on what was just given. He gave an esoteric meaning for the term shakor, and that it could imply sins. And he also stated that it is a part of certain cultures that white, or the wearing of white, represent purification. I do agree, and when you come into Islamic traditions, you have a similar theme where there are certain words that are used, like ba'id, all right, that mean white, and it also represents purification. But that's not the term that they apply to people, all right? And so what you'll find, let's say I'll just use Islam as a key, is that the term white, ba'id, will not be used for people. It will be used for specific things that imply purification. But when it comes to people, it will use terms that denote the lack of hue that are different words, all right? And so the common theme, and I'll use this term sparingly that I'm about to use, in Afro-Asiatic linguistics will be found in so-called Arabic, so-called Hebrew, and in those cultures because they merge at different points. But here's the point I want to make. If Shakur represents sin in that verse, then that means that the prior verse that you just rendered, verse 5, would read that I am sinful and, not but, I am sinful and pleasurable or fair. That would make no sense, all right? That would make any sense esoterically. That would not make any sense mundanely. So if you can elaborate, if there is any elaboration, does the same word that's used in verse 5 have the same esoteric or mundane meaning in verse 6? If so, then verse 5 would make no sense in the common flow of the language of the verses.
Okay, so let's.
If they are different, can you show us the alteration in the word that would ground the fact that they are different? Because in conjunction with verse 6, if verse 6 would mean, look not upon me because I am shakur, meaning sinful, all right, then you just change the meaning of the word in verse 5 and verse 6, and that would need some elaboration for you to make it clearer to us so that we won't get confused.
Okay, so let me just start off by saying this. We're going to do something really quick. This is called Hebrew 101. And I don't mean that in a funny sense, but I mean it in the sense that I'm rolling up my sleeves a little bit. So, what you're doing right now is you're going into a Hebrew text and you're giving us its interpretation, yet clearly you don't understand Hebrew. So, being that we do have a Hebrew scholar on the phone, myself, I will tell you exactly what is going on so that it can make sense for you, the person who is on a novice level, in terms of understanding the Hebrew language. So, let's say this. And I'm going to use first the term Elohim as an example, and then we'll come back to the term Shakur. Hebrew employs, when we talk about Hebrew syntax, right? Hebrew employs one of two things to let you know what's going on with a noun. The term Elohim is a noun in the Torah. It's a person, it's a place, or it's a thing. It's a noun. Hebrew syntax employs one of two things to let you know what is going on with a noun. It will employ an adjective or will employ a verb. And the way that the verb is used or the way that the adjective is used will let you know what is going on with that noun. For instance, the Torah uses the term Elohim 3 different ways. It uses it to refer to the Creator exclusively. In other places, it uses it to refer to the angels on high. And in other places, it uses it to refer to the judges in the land of Israel who were given the power to take and restore life, i.e., they were perceived as Elohim, gods, by virtue of that power. But in context, the way that an adjective or a verb is used will let you know the characterization that that noun is employing. So, Ali Muhammad, let me just teach you something for a second, my good brother who I believe has great intentions. The way that we know that Shakur is to be interpreted differently in verse 5 versus how it is interpreted in verse 6 is simply looking at the adjective, right? The term beautiful is an adjective, right? Because it's doing what? It's describing a noun. So by virtue, that would be an adjective. The adjective used immediately after the term Shakura is letting you know that you are to interpret it differently in verse 5 versus verse 6. For instance, or for example, the Torah teaches that sin is not desirable by God. Sin is something that God clearly does not welcome in the Bible or in the Torah. So we would never refer to sin with the term na'awa in Hebrew, which is that term that is used in the King James Version as beautiful or sometimes comely. But the literal Hebrew root, the cognate, the etymological base lets you know that that's the term for desire, na'awa. It's based on the Hebrew word awa, which is spelled aleph wav he. That's the Hebrew word for desire. Na'awa, as it is used in that particular instance, in that context, is letting you know how we are to define the term shakura as it is used. So again, you would have to have a functional knowledge of Hebrew syntax to be able to tell me that verse 5 and 6 would then mean the same thing. And if they mean the same thing, Zion Lexx, then it ultimately makes no sense. But since you don't have basic Hebrew skills, you couldn't do either of the above. So you would first have to demonstrate baseline understanding in the Hebrew language to be able to give me any definitive understanding within the text itself. Outside of that, anything you said is at most conjecture from a novice, which in the world of academia will never be accepted. So I appreciate your question. I appreciate your attempt at controversy, but you would definitely have to stand on a much stronger base in order to do so. Because again, if I do something which is real simple, which is to go into the syntax within the language and be able to express and differentiate how a noun is used versus how a verb is used and versus how an adjective is used, and show you within those contexts that that is how we interpret the characterization of the noun or what's going on with the noun, then you simply just don't have a leg to stand on that point. But I definitely applaud your attempt. And this is one of the things that I've always said in the conscious community. Everybody that has a contribution in the conscious community has a very wealthy contribution within their respective lanes. I haven't listened to Dr. Ali Muhammad a great deal, but from the little bit that I've listened to him, he sounds very proficient in Islam. He really does. That's right. And I give him a lot of credit. I think that his methodology, the way that he carves out his analysis when he goes to break down ideas and ideals, I think is excellent. Do I agree with Islam? No. Do I ultimately agree with his goal also? No. Do I praise his methodology? Yes. Do I see him as a scholar in his lane? Yes. But you know where the problem comes in? When we go into somebody else's lane. And I'll leave it at that.
Powerful, powerful. You know what? This is why we...
Clarification, brother. That was not my attempt to go in your lane. That was an attempt to ask a question to bring clarity, which you did.
All right, brother. We appreciate that.
Studying who are not as scholarly as you.
I appreciate that, brother. Again, I appreciate that because from the outset, I've always said both openly and privately that there's a very select few of people that I rate in the conscious community. One of them would be Jonathan from the Amin Ra Squad, who I believe, in my opinion, is one of the highest, if not the highest, at least definitely from the Kemetic side. In terms of Islam and those who I've been introduced to in this community, I rate you as well. So at times, I guess the way that I say things definitely comes across a certain way. So maybe I should apologize for how I'm coming across. But I appreciate the way that you asked the question. I appreciate the heart and intent of your question. But I just want to make it clear, not so much to you because you're a genuine scholar, but I know a lot of the listening audience looks up to people like you for scholarship, and they may not have those same tools to be able to employ that advanced level. And I want to make it clear to them that in order to go into the scriptures of the Torah and be able to dissect its meaning, you would have to demonstrate some baseline understanding within the original language that it was spoken in. You know, for instance, everybody loves to say that the first sentence of Genesis reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Well, that sounds great to a novice, but to people who speak Hebrew on a very advanced level, I will give you a completely different sentence right now. So there's so many novice understanding of Torah out there, which I think is really at the heart of the deception, is really at the heart of the division, and is really at the heart of why people have a problem with things that are versed in the Torah. Most people are not well immersed in the original language it was written in. And most people who study ancient languages know that with especially the languages of antiquity coming out of the Afrocentric based nations, there are so many words outside of the European language that when you try to translate it in the European language, you simply cannot find an equivalent. Because the European understanding was never equated with those sciences. So they don't even have words or terms that could correctly express what the African would define as love. Because if I look it up from an English perspective, it has nothing to do with what genuine love is when you look at the English word love. But when we pull out various Bantu tribes, the words that they were using among the Bantu, the words that are used among the Yoruba, again, me standing on the Hebraic race, the word that is used from the Hebraic perspective, I will give you a completely different definition. So what we must understand is, in order to understand these ancient texts, at some point, you have to demonstrate at least a baseline understanding of the language, so that when you begin to open your mouth as an orator or as an expositor and begin to dissect it, that you are scholarly, at least in your attempt.
Hey, Kalam, can I say something real quickly?
Yeah, no problem.
Brother Garfield here. Just to piggyback on what Brother Ali Muhammad was saying. He did make a point that I do want to ask Brother Zion to refer to. The word black, I think he says it's shakar, if I pronounce it properly, shakar. I'm gonna just read a couple of verses out. I'm not gonna read them, but am I to understand what Zion is saying is that black, the word black, which is shakar, pronounced shakar in Hebrew, can mean sin, it can mean disease, it can refer to famine, it can refer to death, it can refer to sorrow, it can refer to health, it can refer to judgment, it can refer to mourning. Is that what is it? Are you saying it has multiple meanings as far as the usage in the text? I don't want to go through have you reading like ISUPK in the corner. Read. I'm not going through that. I just want to say that, is it several different meanings that the word black has in the Torah?
Absolutely. So there's
Okay.
I would refer to it as there are layered representations in the Torah for that one word. And mind you, there are a lot of words in the Torah with layered representations. One of them being the term Elohim, which can mean angels in one respect, or it could mean the judges in the land of Israel in one respect. I don't think there's any single word in the Torah that doesn't have at least 2 to 3 meanings. And all of these meanings ultimately contribute to what the full spectrum of thought is conveyed in that actual word, because clearly there's more than one letter contributing to the word. And this is something that most people who don't speak foreign languages don't even get. It's only when you go into foreign languages that you begin to remember that every single consonant has its own meaning. If I ask anyone on the line right now or watching who only speaks English what the letter A means, they have no meaning. If I ask them what the letter B means, they have no meaning. If I ask them what the letter C means, they have no meaning. But if I speak to anyone out there who speaks ancient languages, they'll say, okay, in Hebrew, Aleph means an ox. It means master. It means teacher. It means wisdom. As an epithet, it's used to describe God. The word Beit, the second letter, means house. It also can mean understanding. It also can refer to a woman. It also can refer to house. We understand that every single consonant in the Hebrew language acts as a stone. And as you know, in order to have a house, you need stones. So if the word is the house, the letters are the stones. And what we lost as an African-based people is the understanding of those individual stones.
Jeez.
Hey, Kalam, let me say this real quickly. Hey Zion, one more thing, brother. Based on your current information and knowledge that you have on the Torah and the word, the meaning, the word black, does it mean, with all the definitions of black and what it means in all the situations where it's used, does that prove that somebody black actually wrote those verses? Because that is the thing that you're saying. This is the proof that black people wrote the Bible, because they referred to black.
No.
In all these instances.
Okay,
does that prove that somebody black?
Okay, so let me say this to answer your question. Let me say this. And I know my Israelite brothers, may be a little unsettled by it.
Guerilla.
But if anything, the conscious community now, so-called, should take a step now to really consider my intent and my desire. You see, I've upset both sides of the table because of my unnerving desire to be truthful at all costs. So at times I'm going to piss off my community. I'm definitely going to piss off your community. All right? Because I'm always going to be truthful. So again, my Israelite brothers might find this unsettling, but I'm going to say this. Whenever an Israelite brother looks at a particular color reference in Torah, and they tell you, oh, see, we had to be black because here it uses the word black, I'm going to say that that's not the best scholarly attempt. The best scholarly attempt to define who the nation of Israel is to look at a particular phrase in the Torah and to use that phrase and now line it up with historical occurrences. For instance, the best proofs for who we are not the proofs that talk about the color of the people. It has always been Deuteronomy 28:68. It has always been when the Torah speaks about us coming out of Ethiopia, my suppliants coming out of Cush. Those are the references in Torah that I validate because they are tied to history, not a particular color. Whether or not you embrace color ideology in the Torah, whether or not you see the Torah through a white lens or a black lens, I will tell you from a scholarly point of view, the best way to ascertain who the children of Israel are in the Torah is to look at those references which deal with the historicity of that time period. If you cannot ascertain or identify with the historicity of that time period, using color reference is definitely not the best. At most, is something that a novice should use because that's obvious. It's too obvious. A scholar wouldn't go, a genuinely Hebrew scholar would not go in the Torah and pull out all those verses that talk about black and say, see, they had to be black. That's just obvious. That's what a novice would do. My son, who's 6 years old, could go in the Torah and do that. He knows what the word black looks like. He knows what the word white looks like. He knows what it looks like in Hebrew too. And he can do it. So I'm giving someone who's of adult age a little bit more credit to dig a little bit more deeper and to come out with genuine scholarship.
All right. You know what? I really personally would love to see a debate between you and the brother Guerilla Hebrew. Recently we had Rabbi Harry Rosenberg onto the channel, giving his dissertation on particular subjects pertaining to the Torah and spirituality. And we had brother Guerilla Hebrew coming on and, really badgering him and asking him certain questions pertaining to prophecy and whether, his people, who he would consider to be the synagogue of Satan, which is a New Testament teaching, which I believe comes out of Revelation, and I know that the Torah-based teachers don't accept anything that comes out of the New Testament. But it would really be good. I think, Guerilla Hebrew is one of the only individuals within inside of the conscious community who belongs to the Hebrew Israelite paradigm that has such a veracity, who could quite possibly challenge you. But I won't say scholarly. I would say he could definitely challenge you. Right. One of the best individuals I would say who may possibly, or two individuals I think could possibly put up a good challenge with you, which I think you already demolished, was the brother Divine Prospect and the brother Hashar. That's shout
out to Divine Prospect. I wouldn't use the term demolish simply because Divine has a much less time spent in Torah study. You see, here we go. Zion about to boast again. I'm 36 years old. I've been doing this since I was 14.
Wow.
Divine is a young man. I think he said he was like 32 or 33. And he's been studying Torah 5 years. He's done phenomenal work within those 5 years. And thank you. He's definitely done phenomenal work in those 5 years. But I just have to tell you from a scholarly point of view, anybody who really understands Hebrew will tell you 5 years ain't cutting it. And I have 22 going on 23 years this year in the Hebrew language.
Wow.
And if you watch the video where you just said I demolished him in, I was mainly cutting him on the Hebrew. That's where he was severely getting chopped and cut, was on the Hebrew.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away credit from him, because Divine is an excellent historian.
Yes.
Divine is excellent at putting together information on a PowerPoint.
True.
Off the dome, though, he definitely couldn't hang with a brother like me. I'll tell you that right now.
Wow.
Even on a PowerPoint, he definitely couldn't hang with me because there's just too many years of study that I have in Torah, as was proven through the video, hence why you said I demolished him, that there's not enough to do with that. But I don't want to throw shade on that brother because he has his place. I think Divine, again, is a great historian.
Definitely.
And to bring up the point I made with Ali earlier, I'll say this again. The problem lies when people step outside their lane.
True.
Divine is a historian. Stick to that. When you come into the Hebrew text, I'll handle that.
All right. So you know what? I want to know this because I think my audience wouldn't allow me, to carry on if I didn't actually ask you these questions pertaining to the text. And this is to do with the Noah story and the so-called curse on Ham. I would reiterate the so-called curse on Ham because I'm fully aware we don't find anything within inside of the Hebrew that denotes that curse was actually put on Ham. But it stated that a curse was put on his child. I believe it's going to be his fourth child or first child, depending on how you read it. And that is curse be canon. And you know what? Later on during the years, these particular verses were taken to justify the rape, the robbery, and slavery of black people. So I want you to tackle that, but I also want you to give us more of an insight on the three sons of Noah. Okay, we have the three sons. We have Ham, we have Shem, and we have Japheth. I want you to give us some insight on the names and the symbolic meanings that may be attached to those names, as well as, I know this is a lot, this is a loaded question, but as well as how did these three individuals become the three so-called races of humanity? Is that something that is really true? Is this a Torah-based teaching, or did they come to become those various different nations and races via migration and mutation?
Okay, that's a great question. All right, so we'll deal with the names first. I'll touch on that proficiency. So the first one is Shem, right? Shem in Hebrew literally means name. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Shem in Hebrew is translated as name. The literal meaning is essence. Because when we name something, we are attempting to define the essence of the thing we're naming, which is unique in all languages, but because my proficiency is in Hebrew, I find especially proficient or unique in Hebrew. For instance, the word for water in Hebrew, going back to the idea that a name is intended to identify with the essence of a thing, the word for water in Hebrew is mayim. It's spelled in Hebrew mem, yod, mem. Mem, yod, mem. Mem in Hebrew is the word for water, mai. Or you could just say mem. That's the word for water in Hebrew. The yod, which is the middle letter in the word, that stands for what? What does water consist of? H2 what?
Oh.
And what does the H2O represent? Two parts what?
2-part oxygen. Sorry. Yeah, 2-part oxygen, right?
Two
part hydrogen
and one part oxygen. The yod, it's all right. So we all do it. The yod in the Hebrew represents oxygen, and it also forms the foundational letter in the word for air, which is aware. And when you listen to it phonetically, aware, knowing that it begins with an aleph, aware, it sounds like the English word air. So you can see where that came from. Hebrew is unique in that every single Hebrew word identifies with the essence of the very thing that it's naming. So the Hebrew word for water conveys a scientific truth, that water is 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. That's extremely unique. Now going to the word for Shem, it literally means essence. What's powerful? Okay. What's powerful about that name that Shem has, and the name correctly identifying with the term or concept essence, it is my Torah-based opinion that the reason why Shem was called Shem is because his progeny or his descendants would be the ones who would convey the very essence, if you will, of the creator of heaven and earth. I believe that, as the Torah clearly begins to suggest, it was the descendants of Shem that brought forth this God consciousness that you saw became the foundation of your quote-unquote major world religions that we see today. And I see a dichotomy between the name of Shem, meaning essence, and understanding that the Creator is the essence of all things in the universe, seen or unseen. I believe that is the deeper meaning of that name, Shem. But it also forms the basis of the Hebrew word for sun, Shemesh.
And heavens.
And heavens, Shemayim. Right? So we can, I mean, I could be here all day with the one word. People that know me and how much I go into the Hebrew language, I will literally go into every single letter and bring it out. We don't have a platform for that. Moving on to the next son of Noah, we have what is called in English Ham, but in Hebrew it's actually Ham with a K. It would be spelled Kham. In the Torah, in particular in the Psalms, the land of Egypt is described in the Torah as the land of Ham. Interesting.
Very.
Because the very people of Egypt describe themselves as the people of what? Ham. There's a phonetic change or shift in the tonage from to but it's the same consonantal base. The K and the M. And the Hebrews clearly got it right. That's because we identified the land of Egypt by its original or ancestral name of Ham in Hebrew, or what they would call Kem in the Kemetic language. Now Ham is deep as well, or Kem, but I'll give it to you from a Hebraic perspective. The first letter in the word Ham, or what you would call in English Ham, is the letter Chet. All right, the letter Chet is a very, very powerful letter in the Hebrew language. It's the 8th letter in the Hebrew language. It forms the initial letter in the word for life in Hebrew, Chaim. What's significant about the Hebrew language is this. The first letter of a word in the Hebrew language forms the foundation or the foundational essence of the thought conveyed in that word. For instance, we know that the first thing laid in the building of a house is the foundation. So the first letter in a word, especially let me exemplify this because I don't know if it's true in other languages. The first letter in a Hebrew word forms the foundation of that word's meaning. And the first letter in the word Ham is based on the Hebrew word for life. Powerful. The second is the word Mem, which is the word for water. So there's a doubling of life, right? Because we know that wherever you find water, you find sources of what? Life. So if anyone would like to dig into the mind for a second and just kind of explore concepts, and I'm giving credence to Kemet, by the way, in doing so, I think the reason why Ham, or Ham as you say in English, was called Ham is because of the contributions that came out of Kemet. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Regardless of my differences with Egypt, there was great wisdom that came out of Kemet.
True.
To deny that is to not be a genuine scholar. When we get into the translation of those glyphs on the wall, some very powerful thoughts are recorded therein. A great deal of those thoughts that are recorded are not all against Torah-based teachings. Yeah. You see, we have to get to a point in scholarship where you can appreciate what is true and you could divorce yourself from that which is untrue. But to say you totally unappreciate something is almost rare. There's always something about someone or something that you can find that is good. So whenever you find people that say, oh, throw this whole thing in the garbage, it's usually people that's full of shit. Such as the people who say and throw the Bible in the garbage. Because those people will then tell you that their master teacher is Dr. Ben, who Dr. Reggie said, told his students, whatever you do, don't throw that Bible in the garbage until you have something to replace it. Which the underlying thought is, as much as Dr. Ben knew about Kemet, clearly he didn't think that it was enough to replace the Bible, because he told his students or enjoined his students not to destroy it until you have something to replace it. So with all of his knowledge of Kemet, he should have been able to say, okay, now we can destroy it. But he didn't do that. Brother Reggie said almost a full year ago, live on Sonic the TV, I got the video saved. Dr. Ben told us as students not to throw away the Bible until we have something to replace it. So again, for those who are very cognitive, who pay attention to thought, who are very observant, we see something implicit in that statement, which is with all of the knowledge that Dr. Ben had, clearly it wasn't greater for him to say, okay, we don't need the Bible no more. So think about that. And again, Dr. John Henry Clark said it on video, don't throw away the Bible. He said that although he believes those stories to be just that, myths, which is the Greek term for story, although Dr. Clark believed that the stories in the Bible are just myths, he believed them to be myths based on African tradition. So he said once you understand the base of those myths, which he believes came out of African tradition, you would never want to throw out the Bible, because from his opinion, it's still conveying African tradition. This is what the average Kemetic idiot, I don't even know a better word to say it, just don't understand. Dr. Clark is on record saying that he believes the Bible is based on African tradition and that the stories are not necessarily historical because they're coming from the historical traditions in Africa. Nonetheless, once you understand the heart of those traditions in the Bible, you wouldn't want to throw it away because it's African tradition. So whenever I hear people of Kemetic stock and base talking about we don't need the Bible, throw it away, and they also say out the left and right side of their mouth that Dr. Ben and Clark are their teachers, it just reminds me of why I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Again, I believe that the word Hem, which forms the base of the word Ham, is telling you something esoterically about the contribution of Kemet. When we get into Yafet, or Japheth in English, Yafet is the Hebrew word for beauty as well as to enlarge. So there's two ways to look at Europeans on a whole. Europeans, from a Torah perspective, are described as a people who inherit or who will inherit, because a lot of the names of the patriarchs are actually prophecies. So Europeans, from a Torah-based perspective, are described as a people who will inherit a large part of the world. The Torah doesn't tell you how they will inherit it, which we know that they raped and pillaged the world. But nonetheless, the Torah is giving you prophecy that Europeans definitely took control of a vast majority of the world. How they got it clearly wasn't righteous, but there's a prophecy in their name. Their territory was enlarged based on the Torah's teachings. As far as the beauty part of their name, I will say this. I think that the Torah is referring to the overly materialistic nature that is associated with the European mentality. You know, the obsession with cosmetics. You know, anytime a person has an obsession with beautifying the body more than they beautify the spirit, there's a problem.
That's right.
And African people always emphasize the beautification insidiously before it translated overtly, or physically, or outwardly. African people always stress the edification or beautification of the inner core shell of our being as opposed to that which is on the outside. European kingdoms tend to mask their ignorance with pretty faces and cosmetic laces, making up for the spiritual and intellectual lack thereof. I'll leave it at that.
Facts. You know what? I've actually got a caller calling in. So I want to actually get their opinion or their question out there for the listening audience. So, caller calling in. Area code 910. What is your question?
As I read the Torah, I see something to the effect of that we need to search out the culprits of old and hold them accountable today. So I'm curious to hear the plan or the ideas that Zion has about that, holding the culprits of slavery accountable today.
Okay, 1 second. Before you answer that, brother, I would really love to give a big shout out to my brother Razel. You know what? He has been so warm and welcoming to us. He's actually opened up his house, you know, to facilitate all what's going on right now behind the scenes. I know I'm tired. He must be overly tired himself. He's actually given up his work right now to be here to make sure that this is actually going on and going smoothly as it is. So big shout outs to my brother Rosel for facilitating this. Okay, so back to you.
Okay, so I just want to say this to the brother's question. I didn't really get to hear the brother's name to really find out where he's from. So being that I don't know where he's from or who he is, I want to just assure him that my rebuttal is nothing personal. I really comb Torah. Most people that know me in my community know me to have a name of a person that is meticulous when it comes to Torah research and study. There is no such verse in the entire Torah that says we ought to search out the culprits. I just want to make that emphatically clear to you. I can say that with such confidence because I know it's not in there. You could definitely, by all means, look for the verse and surprise those of us who really are immersed in Torah. But I want to make it clear that that verse is definitely not in Torah. Nowhere in Torah does it tell us that we are to seek out the culprits responsible for slavery. The fact that you would even ask such a question or make such a statement lets me know that if you are a Hebrew, you don't understand the Torah. And if you aren't a Hebrew, then clearly you don't understand the Torah. Torah teaches us that slavery came as a result of the children of Israel's disobedience to God. So the culprit in question would be the people. We wouldn't be looking externally. We wouldn't be looking to blame anyone. We'd be looking and searching insidiously. So I can clearly tell you that that statement is nowhere in the Torah, that we are to search out the culprits responsible for slavery, because the bottom line is the Torah teaches that we put ourselves into slavery. In fact, the book says you sold yourself into slavery.
Powerful.
The Torah says that.
Wow.
And that's in the Torah verbatim. We put ourselves in this position, according to the Torah. So the culprits would be us. So maybe perhaps next time you would want to, I guess, read the Torah more and then form a question that's actually based on the writing as opposed to what's based on conjecture and what's just in the air.
Strong. You know what? We're actually reaching the close of the show right about now. But of course, we're going to have more of these conversations. I'm going to try to film as much as possible whilst I'm actually down here. I do believe that tomorrow there is actually a Hebrew event taking place with the brothers such as Hashar and Danyalla. And I believe my brother Divine Prospect, as I spoke to him earlier on today, will be there. So please support your brothers who are definitely putting on an event. So if you're a Hebrew Israelite, please support your brothers, attend their lectures, attend their presentations, you know what, and help the community to enlarge, okay? Help the community enlarge and support your brothers and sisters no matter what. Secondly, obviously, there is the big debate that's taking place on Sunday, March the 20th. Rabbi Harry Rosenberg will be, you know what, here in New York at the Alhambra Ballroom, actually facing off with Brother Polight. Now that's going to be something. I know, you know, somebody may just run on the stage and give you a surprise or a shocker. And that someone may just be in this room. That someone may just be Zion Lexx or even me. You never know. I may just be on that stage myself. So I don't know. I'm just going to keep you all in suspense for that one. And of course, you know, the rabbi, please, Jewish community, if you're out there, you know, my Israelite community, Israeli community, if you're out there and you want to support your brother, Harry Rosenberg, you know what, I will be definitely live streaming for Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. I will be recording the event for Harry Rosenberg. And if you want to get the link to that, you go to Harry Rosenberg's site. And this is only to my Israeli Jewish people. Go to that site and support your brother Harry Rosenberg. Definitely we're going to have a setup like you see now where there's 2 cameras, but there will be 3 cameras set up, lavalier mic, everything, the sound quality crystal clear. So please support your brother. Go onto his website. It is called Trio Academy, trio.academy/debate, and you can purchase your tickets on there. And of course, if you're in the Kemetic community, Pan-African community, Hebrew Israelite community, Moorish community, Islamic community, everybody who tunes into Titans TV on a normal basis and Sarnetta and other channels on a normal basis, please support your brother Sarnetta and Polight by visiting their store, 2012stores.com, where you can purchase your ticket. You know what? They will send you out the link. They'll send you out the password to the live stream, and it's going to be a phenomenal event. So please support your brothers. This helps us, you know, to come out to the United States of America to actually, you know, interface with these brothers, and hopefully I'm going to be able to invite these brothers over to the UK and interface with our community as a whole as well. Obviously, you know what, I'm planning myself to go. I know yourself, you've spoken to Stephen Graham as well.
Yes.
Stephen Graham.
Shout out to that brother, by the way. And I appreciate his work. He's a Muslim brother.
Yep.
He does a lot of great work in the Holy Land in Jerusalem and Israel. He has several documentaries out showing you that Israel sits on the African plate.
Yes.
There's actually somewhere in Jerusalem that actually shows you, and there's a memorial, and it's on a plaque that shows you, it literally says in Hebrew as well as English, that Israel sits on the African plate. And it uses the term African plate in Hebrew as well.
Wow.
That brother's phenomenal.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So please, you know what, we're planning actually to go out to Palestine and then further travel into Israel, to Jerusalem, to meet Harry Rosenberg. We're going to go out there with the Bedouins, Sheikh Aid. Who else is going to be there? What's his name? Jedi. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name right now. This is the titans of the community in Palestine right now. So please check out the documentaries, check out the wonderful works that's taking place. I do believe you have a GoFundMe account set up to go as well.
Account. You can find it up from my Facebook. Also, on this time, I can't mention UK without supporting and mentioning people that I know and respect out there. Shout out to Stylo G, a reggae artist in the UK.
Yes.
Shout out to Gappy Ranks, that's my brother, VP Records artist. Love that brother right there. Also, shout out to my brother Cardinal Official, man. Real official dudes. And shout out to all my yardies at Stratford Rex.
All right. So, yeah, you know what? We're literally reaching the end of the show right now. I know we want to continue more. We definitely are going to continue more. I want to link up with you tomorrow, and we can get a recorded interview this time with a presentation on something. What won't be live streamed, because I want to take this back to the UK and then release it on a later date.
Okay.
Leave our audience in suspense. I know they want to see more of you. We've got over 180 people tuned in right now watching you live. So yeah, definitely, as well, please, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, help us to grow. And of course, if you subscribe right now, all our upcoming shows will be featured on the channel. We will get the notification. If it's possible, just go right to the top, hit the there's like a little bell. There's like a little bell symbol. Hit the bell symbol and click to say you want to get notifications. Anytime we post a new video out, you will get a notification in your inbox alerting you to the fact that we are actually live streaming, or there is a new video that's actually put out. And if you are interested in our debates as well, we've got loads of debates, Speakers Corner debates. I think this Speakers Corner is like, I think everybody around the world has heard of Speakers Corner. Everybody around the world actually comes to visit us at Speakers Corner. And we're now making available in the sense that people in America who weren't aware of it before is now starting to tune in and seeing what the UK has to offer. So, I'm very blessed and grateful to be in this position, being the liaison, the journalist, to bring you what's taking place in the UK and bring it to the Americas, and bringing what's taking place in the Americas to the UKs and worldwide over as well.
Okay. This is one thing I want to address.
Polight.
Polight. You knew it was gonna be polite, right? But I want to clarify something, because people said, Zion Lexx, whenever you speak about Polight, it seems to be a lot of hate. A lot of, you hate Polight. Listen, Polight doesn't have anything that I need or aspire to have. I drove here in a beautiful car.
I can testify that. I can testify to that.
I have money. I go a lot of places. And trust me, all you would have to do is go to my Instagram or Facebook to see some of the celebrities that I know. When I speak about hatred for Polight, it's really nothing personal. It's about practices. I caught a lot of flack from not just the Kemetic community, even some Hebrews inboxed me and was like, I don't mess with Polight, man, but that word hate is a strong word, brother. It's used sometimes in the Torah, but it ain't thrown around like that. Watch how you use that word hate. I had to remind the brother that in the very same video where you see me speaking about hatred for Polight, I say I hate his practices, not the man. And let me explain to you why I can use the word hate in Hebrew. Hebrew 101 once again. So the word for hate in Hebrew is sneh. It's spelled in Hebrew sin, nun, aleph. The first two letters, which is sin and nun, spell the Hebrew word sin. And it means to fend off, to shield, or to separate or distance from. This is based on the Etymological Dictionary of Biblical Hebrew, which you can look up online. I gave a reference to my brother Divine Prospect earlier, who I shared this dictionary with during our dialogue, for anybody who would like to see where I base a lot of my Hebrew etymological roots and bases and stems from. So again, the Hebraic base for the word for hate, the word for hate in Hebrew literally comes from a word which means to separate or distance from. The last letter in the Hebrew word for hate is the letter aleph. Aleph, as the very first letter in the Hebrew language, is the one letter in the Hebrew language that totally represents God. It has a numerical value of 1. We say in prayer every day, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The Lord our God, the Lord is Echad, 1. God is 1. So we always equate 1 with God. Aleph is the first letter and it literally means 1. It also literally means a master, which is also the creator, and it means a teacher. Who is a teacher greater than the creator? So the letter Aleph has always been a letter which represents the creator. To get a little deeper, let's look at the shape and form of the Aleph. The letter Aleph in Hebrew is written like this, right? You take a long line down the middle, which is the letter Wav, the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and then you have a Yod in the upper right corner, and you have a Yod in the bottom left corner. Yod is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet and its numerical equivalent to 10, and you have 2 of them, so that's 20. And the letter in the middle is Wav, which is the 6th letter, its numerical equivalent to 6. So 10 and 10 is 20, and 6, that's 26. That's the numerical equivalent of the holy and divine name of God in the Torah. Yod, He, Vav, He. Yod is 10, He is 5, Wav is 6, He is 5. 26.
Hold on, 1 second.
So you could put that on camera for people to see. So the word for God in Hebrew, which is, some people say Yahweh, but I'll just say it as it is spelled, Yod He Vav He, is numerically equivalent to 26. The individual strokes or letters which compose the Hebrew letter Aleph ultimately is numerically equivalent to 26. So Aleph represents God. So going back to the word for hate, the word for hate is based on the Hebrew root sen, which means to distance or separate from, and then you have the letter Aleph behind it. So the word for hate in Hebrew literally means to distance from God. I hate anyone who introduces an ideology to distance people from the God consciousness that Africans brought into the world.
Wow. Yeah. What more can I say about that? What more can I say? Or what more can you say? You know what? Because we literally reached the end of the show. So I want to just close it down right now. But I want to leave you with the last signing out words. And I think you literally summed it up beautifully there. But I want to give you the last opportunity to leave us with a sign out word and just to promote a little promotion of Harry Rosenberg and Brother Polight's debate on Sunday.
I'll touch on Polight last, I'll touch on Harry Rosenberg first, and I'm going to be extremely non-biased. In order for Harry to win this debate, he's going to need a little bit more than scholarship. Polight is a great showman. He has excellent showmanship.
That's right.
Polight knows how to move audiences. I haven't seen Harry in a room full of black people, per se. I know that he's done teachings before in a room full of Hebrew Israelites, who of course are black, so-called black Jews as well. But that's a different kind of crowd. Sunday, March 20th, is the Kemetic War Conference crowd. That's the crowd that's the Apollo crowd.
Yeah.
If you don't sing the tune we want to hear, we going to boo that ass. And Harry has to understand that he's walking into an environment where his skin color already pronounces him as a loser. So the onus is on him to really turn it up, not just intellectually. He has to know how to move that crowd. And that's a heavy task. I don't know how he's going to do it. But there always is a way. Scholarship-wise, Harry won the debate because Polight is no scholar. It's the reason why out of everybody in the conscious community, Polight will sit on the couch with them. Polight will debate them. When you ask Polight about debating Zion Lexx, he got every excuse in the world to do the running man. He will never debate me unless the money's right. And this is what I'm learning. I'm learning that learn to listen to those you disagree with. Because in listening to those you disagree with, you may learn something. Listen to how a person describes themselves to you. Because in doing so, you may see what the person is trying to show you themselves. Polight has recently styled himself as a Mayweather.
The money team.
Isn't Mayweather known for picking various fights? Mayweather know that he could beat Pacquiao. And mind you, I'm a Mayweather fan. To the bone. I'm a fan of Mayweather. TBT all the way. The TBE all the way. The best ever, right? But his strategy was unique in the boxing industry. He knew how to work the Pacquiao fight. He knew that this is what the people wanted to see. So he avoided Pacquiao for years, knowing that the build-up alone would create that financial hype where he could call for the money that he got that day. And he made the biggest salary ever in that fight. Polight he's very intelligent. Give the man credit.
Definitely.
Polight is such a genuine scholar and ego-driven man that it pains his heart to ever admit to himself that he should have to run from Zion Lexx or anybody, because the man is full of himself. He's full of the shit he drowns in. He would never admit to himself that he needs to run from me. So trust me, ultimately, Polight definitely is going to sit on that couch with me. Polight is definitely going to get on that stage with me, but he wants to create that hype, which is intelligent on his part. But I'm going to say this. The day he do it, it's game over. It's game over. Intellectually speaking, Polight don't got nothing for me. And the thing is, he actually knows that. But one thing I rate him for, he's such a genuine scholar. He's going to use this time period to study me meticulously and to go back and restudy the Hebrew doctrine meticulously. And therein, he believes he will find his win. As of right now, he knows he can't win. I'm telling you, he knows he can't win. Me and Polight have spoken several times off the record and exchanged ideas. Polight know he can't win. Intellectually speaking, everywhere he goes, I chase him in the intellectual corner. He came in the community and he said he's a pantheist of the Kemetic science. A week or two before that, he called himself an atheist. I was the only one in the community to point out that there's a contradiction. You can't be a pantheist, someone who believes that everything is God, and yet negate God, be an atheist. Since then, you've heard him decline from using the term pantheist, right? Kudos to Zion Lexx for once again chin-checking Polight. Closing words have to be for Polight. And this is the root of my problem with Polight. Whenever you make consciousness a financial culprit, and you use the people to aid you in doing so, you have made a whore of your people, and you have become the pimp of the community. Great show, my brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Signing out.